Hello and welcome back to Honoring the Journey. I'm Leslie Niche, your host, and today is a very, very, very special day because my very best friend in the whole entire world, my sister, is going to be my co-host today because we want to talk about something that we experienced as young girls and even into our adulthood, the rapture anxiety. We're going to be talking about that. Marie, welcome. This is a big one. Thank you for joining me.
Of course. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun. Well, first of all, you want to talk about yourself a little bit? She's like, you did not prepare me for this, Leslie. Just let people know. Like Marie is also deconstructing, but our journeys have been very similar. I think I've been a little more outspoken. So she's not very vocal normally about this stuff.
No.
So you want to talk about that?
Well, you know what? What it boils down to is I have this career where I have to be super careful about what I say on social media and things like that. But at the same time, like when you share something that is like super impactful and I think relevant for people to understand, I'm happy to share that. And I'm not like creating that content myself.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. That's very fair. But Marie and I grew up, if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, I grew up in initially very fundamentalist, sort of independent Baptist, like jean skirts was the only jeans we could wear. And the 6-inch rule with boys and not being able to listen to record albums and lots of legalism and very, very adamant that the rapture was a true, real thing. And so I just thought it would be interesting. Marie and I were talking about it on the phone. We actually did a podcast together. If you want to listen, it's out there. It's called Midlife Madness. And we just talked about being midlife and had some fun with it. But then COVID hit and we were like,
yeah,
everything just got weird. But it's still out there if you want to listen to it, Midlife Madness. And then you'll hear a little bit more from Marie and about her life and everything. But Marie, let's talk about the first time. Do you remember the first time we heard that there was going to be a rapture? And do you remember where we were and what we were doing?
Yeah. Okay, so how much detail do you want me to give here? Because it's like that, almost like people who were alive when President Kennedy was killed, right? I remember the room. It was the same room we went to school in. Yeah. That's where our classroom was. We were in a Christian school in California. I don't know how specific I should get, but it was chilling. Mm-hmm. And I already had an anxiety disorder that started when I was about 10 years old. And so it just kind of built off of that. And it was the whole, am I really a Christian? Did that last time I went forward in church and prayed the prayer, did it work that time? Because if it didn't, I better do it again because I want to make sure if there is a rapture that I'm not left behind.
I remember this too. And I remember the absolute terror that just followed me until literally just a few years ago when I let go of this belief system. And if you're listening and you're like, what the heck are they talking about? For one thing, God bless you. I am so jealous that you don't know what this is.
I'm so lucky. I've asked my kids, did you ever have this fear? And they're like, no. And it's because I didn't let them grow up in that, right? Yeah. I made this very conscious decision. I didn't want my kids to live in fear all the time. So I purposefully made that decision so that they didn't have to live with that fear. They don't even understand the fear that we're talking about today.
Well, and I guess that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because I do think a lot of people don't really understand how ingrained this, I don't know what you would call it, theology, but I don't know. It's a weird teaching, a doctrine from the Christian church or the evangelical church. But I did some research and I want to just talk to you a little bit. I'm going to give you just ideas of what it actually is. And then you can decide for yourself what you think about it. Personally, I thought it was true. I thought it was normal. I thought that was what you were supposed to believe. And then, oh my word, I don't know. I just all of a sudden started questioning because I was around a group of people, a different religion that I thought everything they believed was bizarre. I was like, how do they believe that there's a planet that, and like, I was just like, what weirdos. And then all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, Leslie.
Yeah.
You think you're going to disappear one day.
Yeah.
And Jesus is going to come back. And like, you think that the world is talking about UFOs because they're God is preparing for the world to think that the Christians were all taken up by UFO. Like, I literally believed this with all of my heart. So here is a little bit of the theology behind the rapture, which wasn't even a thing in the early church, by the way. So the biblical roots, the term rapture, it comes from 1 Thessalonians 4:17, where Paul describes believers being caught up to meet the Lord in the air. And this concept of a distinct pre-tribulation rapture, which means God's going to come and get you before like the world goes mad and crazy and like for 7 years of tribulation. So he's going to like pull us up as believers and we won't have to suffer. Isn't that
Right.
nice? Yeah.
But everybody we love will, but woohoo, praise the Lord.
We're getting out by the
We're
skin
safe.
of our teeth. Yes.
Fire insurance.
Yeah. But it's a very modern interpretation. So like in the 1700s, Puritan preachers like Cotton Mather began hinting at these ideas. But then John Nelson Darby in 1830, like 1830 something, he's the founding leader of the Plymouth Brethren, which was a sect of Christianity, who systemized and popularized the concept of pre-tribulation rapture within dispensationalist theology. That means end times kind of stuff. The doctrine gained wide traction in the United States through the Scofield Reference Bible in the early 20th century, and later through apocalyptic bestsellers like Hal Lindsey's The Late Great Planet Earth and Tim LaHaye's Left Behind series. So basically, the roots of this theology in a modern framework, rather than ancient orthodoxy, it's just helpful to contextualize the emotional and psychological impacts that we're going to actually be talking about. Because basically, if you are a Christian, this is layman's terms. I just gave you all the fancy stuff, but I'm going to give you layman's terms. If you're a Christian, that means you've asked Jesus into your heart to forgive you for your sins because you're such a sinner. God can't even look at you, right? This is the theology we grew up. God can't even look at you because you're a sinner, but he wants to because he loves you so much, right? So if you ask Jesus to come into your heart, all of a sudden it's Jesus that he sees, not you. And then you're acceptable, which totally fits the narrative of my entire childhood. You are not enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need to have something else. So to me, it kind of made sense. I'm like, well, of course. Yeah. If everybody in the world seems to have these stipulations for me to be acceptable to them, of course God would. You know what I mean? Because I'm a horrific person that just fit my narrative. And a lot of people in this type of environment, that is exactly what's happening. It's fitting the narrative that they're probably telling themselves anyway, that I'm worthless and I'm nothing. But now I'm something and I'm special.
I'm special.
I am special. So
I know something you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, but you want everybody to know. And like Marie and I, very empathetic, very feeling people, decided this was going to be our life goal to tell the world because we didn't want them to go to hell. And we definitely didn't want them being left behind in the rapture. But then there was a part of me, and I don't know if you felt this way, Marie, but like a part of me that was like, I kind of don't want to be taken up in the rapture. I want people to know, because if you're in the world during that 7 years, there's going to be this one world religion, according to the stuff we were taught.
The movies.
Yeah, the movies, which we are definitely getting into. But according to them, you have to like get your hand stamped or whatever, 666 or your forehead. And that's how you buy and sell. And that's how you can live. And if you don't get that, they call it the mark of the beast. If you don't get that mark of the beast, you can't buy and sell. And if they find out that you didn't get it, they just kill you by
chopping your head off.
Yeah. It is literally, this was in a movie that we saw when I think it was 9 or 10 years old.
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting. I looked it up. When did it come out? It came out in 1972. So you would have been, very young, but we didn't see it until like the late 70s.
Yes.
Maybe early 80s, 79, 80-ish. But yeah, I mean, and then that was the first one, but there's 4. And this was almost like required viewing for any Baptist youth group.
Yeah. Well, especially independent Baptist.
Especially independent. Yeah. A bit in Southern. I think they were watching it too. But where we saw it was at an independent Baptist church. Yeah.
Yeah. So Thief in the Night, Distant Thunder, what was it?
It's Image of the Beast and The Prodigal Planet.
Oh, okay. Image of the beast and okay, I don't remember the names of them. I just remember
Yeah.
heads flying. I remember the
Yeah.
thing that was so scary for me, Marie, was that this woman really thought she was a Christian.
Yeah.
Remember?
That's
And she
where
was
the fear was. Yeah. Was that she wasn't. So, oh my gosh, what if I'm not? And how do you ever, ever get that confirmation?
yeah, you don't.
Oh,
And
you have faith.
well, I know, but the faith is not certainty. And I think that sometimes in religious
Mhm.
communities, especially very high control ones, they want you to feel certain, but its stipulations are only if you do this, 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 and this. And so it's
Right.
like a earning, a striving. It's like a almost like a transaction between you and God to make sure that you're good. And if you're not, the end of the world comes and you're not going to be taken up. The narrative that I was taught about the rapture was that when the rapture happens, basically God is taking his spirit off of the planet. And
Right.
Christians are taught the minute you ask Jesus into your heart, all of a sudden the Holy Spirit comes to live in you. Before that, you were empty and you didn't have God in you, right? You were looking
Right.
for God. This was the theology we were taught. And so once you ask Jesus into your heart, you get the Holy Spirit, and that's how you're so amazing. And that's why you know everything. And everybody who doesn't have the Spirit knows nothing. And that is very much, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's true. That's how it was preached to us.
That is, it was the single most scary thing I've ever dealt with in my life.
Wow.
And I say that having watched, well, The Exorcist, like, and Poltergeist, which made my son have nightmares for years, knowing that was fiction, right? In the eyes of a believer, that was fiction.
Right.
Those things don't really happen, and we're not supposed to watch them anyway. But this was presented to me as truth.
Right. Right.
And there was this song that is attached to these movies.
Yes.
And you remember that song? I want to read, I printed the lyrics. I'm just going to read it.
Go
It's
for it.
chilling.
Okay.
A man and wife asleep in bed. She hears a noise and turns her head. He's gone. I wish we'd all been ready. Two men walking up a hill. One disappears and one's left standing still. I wish we'd all been ready. There's no time to change your mind. The sun has come and you've been left behind.
Yeah.
I have goosebumps
Me too. Right now.
all over my body because and I do have a story to tell here that now, and I'm going to preface it with saying that I also may have had postpartum depression or psychosis or something, but I when my daughter was born and she was an infant, lived in North Carolina. We were at Fort Bragg. Bob, my husband, was in the Army. And if you've lived in a military community, the term duty. And what that means is that your husband's working, or your soldier is working overnight, and he has duty. He had duty at the barracks, so he was working the front desk or whatever, doing security at the barracks that night. And so I was home alone with my infant daughter and my 2-year-old son. I was watching the evening news, and there was one of the stories in the news that night was this religious man had figured out that the math through the Bible or whatever, and that this was the night, and it was happening this night. The rapture was going to occur.
How many times did we hear that too?
We heard it a lot, but there was something about that night that was very real for me. And like I said, I had an infant. I was home alone. It scared me. And so I called my husband. It's like 11 o'clock at night. Actually, it's after that because it was the 11 o'clock news. So it had to be like 11:30ish. And I called him at work while he was on duty. And I said, okay, you need to ask Jesus into your heart. The rapture is coming tonight. I'm terrified for you. I don't want to go alone. And here I am. I'm sitting there also thinking I'm not good enough either. I'm going to get left behind. But if I go, I want him to come with me. And I'm like, you need to make this decision.
Did he know what you were talking about? Had you talked about this before?
Yes. Yeah, but not he thought I was nuts. I sounded psychotic. I was. In a sense, I was psychotic, and he's still married to me. Can you believe that?
It's a lot of grace right there.
I know. It is like, I'm like, I am completely like judging him that
Mm,
any type of salvation he thought he received in the past wasn't real,
mhm.
and that I believed he wasn't a Christian and that he needed to become one for me. Yeah, because that's a true conversion,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
When he does
100%.
it for me, I mean, that's what makes it real. And
Yeah.
so, and he calmed me down to the best of his ability, but at the same time, I went to bed that night and I had this infant, and we all know what is it? What did they call it? The age of
Accountability.
accountability. That kids,
Yes.
if they die young or they're raptured young, they have
Before
that
they
little
know the difference.
free
Yeah.
time, like
Yeah.
where they don't have to be responsible for their soul, I guess. I don't know.
By the way, that's not in the Bible. So,
No.
FYI.
So I assumed that if the rapture did come, both my children were going to disappear.
Mm.
And at the time, because she was an infant, I had a bassinet by my bed. I stayed up all night that night, staring at my infant baby, waiting for my baby to disappear.
Oh my
And now it's not rational. I probably was dealing with postpartum depression or, something like that. But
But also
that was
religious
as
trauma.
yeah, that's what it was. And I it was as real to me as anything, making a
Yeah.
peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
Yeah.
right? It was traumatic. And
Mm.
and I remember it more vividly than I remember have most of my memories in my life because it was so traumatic. And the
Traumatic. Yeah.
next day I felt so much better. And then when I heard these stories in the future, well, tonight's the night. I mean, because it did continue to happen. I'm like, whatever,
Yeah.
I learned from it. But at the same time, my poor husband,
It's like, what the heck is happening?
even
Yeah.
now, he's probably thinks I'm crazy for telling the story because I sound like crazy.
Well, but you say
I'm
that
crazy.
now, but like when you believe that that's true, and there may even be people listening right now who believe this is
It's
going to
true.
happen,
Mhm, mhm.
and they say because the Bible says it and the Bible is clear. I just want to encourage you to do a little bit more research because the Bible is not clear. This
Right,
was not part of the early church teachings at
right.
all. This was not a part of what Jesus taught. And if you really do the research, you realize he was talking to the people of that day. He wasn't talking to us here in 2025. Look up, be ready at any moment. To me, I think we have just gotten the gospel so wonky wrong because we think we have to strive. We think we have to work for something. We think everything is transactional and everything is conditional. And I think the whole message of Jesus was no, it's not.
Right. That's
You are
right.
loved
That's
right
right.
where you are and you are accepted right where you are. And why do you think the church and politics got together and planned a murder for him? Because he was going against the thing that was keeping people under their thumb. And like I see that now and I know if you would have said this to me 10 years ago, I'd have been like, "Oh my gosh, you're so lost and I'm so scared for your soul." Because I was so into it. Um
You were, and I wasn't. I was in and out, here and there in my adult life, in and out of church every now and then. Usually when there was a crisis, I head right back to church,
yeah.
right? But I remember asking you the question, how can you be excited about an event,
Mhm.
happy about an event, hopeful for an event that is going to send everybody you love that's not where you are in your religious thought process straight to hell,
Mhm.
straight to tribulation,
Mhm.
to no, getting tattooed, getting their heads cut off when they try to get bread. You know what I mean? That's that, and I'm talking about the movies now, not the Bible necessarily, because the movies really took some liberties.
Yeah.
But it's like how can anybody be happy about that or
What did I
excited for it?
say? Do you remember what I said?
Um, I
'Cause
don't. I've said this to multiple people. I don't remember what you said. I don't. I
I
remember saying it to another person in my life, and they kind of just looked at me like I hadn't really thought about it like that.
yeah. Well, if I'm honest, I didn't want to get taken up. I wanted to be here to help warn people and guide them. I wanted to be the hero.
Yeah.
like
Oh,
really looking to be the hero.
it's totally you, but if what you're being taught that
Yeah.
that anything that's related to Jesus is
Yeah.
gone,
Hmm.
you can't be here.
Right.
You
Right.
can't be an evangelist after the fact. You have to do it now. And so why aren't these people like knocking on my door? These people who claim to love me
Yeah.
and saying, you got, they should be lining up.
Right. I know, I agree. And I remember when I was walking really, really close, in faith, like doing the thing under that, umbrella of doctrine, very
Mhm.
dogmatic. And I heard about what is that? It was Penn and Teller, like one of the guys. He's an atheist, and he came forward and said, "Listen, if you're a Christian and you believe that, like, why are you not out there?" And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, "Oh, he's so lost." And I remember instead of doing something in my mind,
Mhm.
it made me feel sorry for people because
Mhm.
I had the answers. And I think we need to understand how human that is. We all want
Yeah.
to be special. We all want to think that we have the answer. I think growing and learning that there are so many different ways to look at religion and God and all of it, it helped open my mind so that I started going, oh, I see. We all think this.
Yeah. Well, and in my opinion, being excited about an event that will hurt so many people is the most narcissistic way of thinking that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah. Well, and I do remember thinking, why would Jesus have to suffer and die, and yet we don't get to suffer? Like
Mhm.
I feel like we should. I think we should show them how to suffer well, because we were perfect and knew stuff. I mean, not
Mhm.
perfect in the world's eyes, but in God's because Jesus covered us, right? That
Right.
was my thought process because I knew I was truly, well, I hoped I was truly a believer. I I was like, I'm gone. There's nothing I can do about it. So I made a video. And this is in 2008, I believe. I made a video and it was a warning. Okay, so I have disappeared and I want you to know this is why and this is what you need to do and they're going to ask you to get a mark and I told them all of it. Like I spilled out all of my trauma into this video and I kept it on my desktop so if somebody would open my computer they would see it and the title was please open this if I disappear. Yeah. Like that, if people would only understand, I think a lot of times, especially people who are in Christianity still and like still in that mindset, they hear my journey of deconstruction. They're like, oh, she was never really a Christian. Because you
Mhm.
can't fully you wouldn't walk away from the truth if that was true. You're right. You wouldn't walk away from the truth, but you would walk away from indoctrination that produces fear and anxiety and trauma. And that is exactly what I have done. And I have had to work so hard because it was so ingrained in me and I was so afraid of it. I did not want people dying. I didn't. And I didn't know what to do with all of that. And so that became people pleasing.
Oh yeah.
It showed up in, I don't want people to not love me because if they don't love me, then maybe they won't love God.
Right.
That's more important than anything is
Mhm.
that everybody knows God. So like somebody who's in that mindset, how could I have never meant it? How could I have ever been somebody, you know what I mean? Like it
Mhm.
just ticks me off when they want to discredit my reality because they can't imagine that somebody would walk away from these teachings.
But then I go back to when I was in that
Hmm.
and I'm like, you can't. Your
Yeah,
eternity
I know. It's a
rides on it. There's
yeah.
other issues where I could go into this too, where like they feel like they have to judge you for certain things because they feel like you're doing things that um, are wrong. And if they don't tell you, they think it's their job
Mm.
to put you on the right path.
Well, it's their
And
purpose. It is their reason for, I
yeah,
remember being told, because I was like, why doesn't God just snatch us up the second we become Christians? Well, because God needs you to spread the truth of the gospel on the earth.
mhm.
So you're here for a purpose. So when you deconstruct, like that is one of the most difficult things is all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm not really all that special. I'm not chosen by
Yeah,
God to proclaim his truth. Like I am just another human being trying to get through this life. How can I
right.
do that with more love? I had to literally change the way I thought because when I was in Christianity, especially in this evangelical sort of fundamentalist, like rapture is going to happen. Yeah, you couldn't have told me that I was wrong because I had been taught that the Bible said this and it was clear. When you do the research, though, you realize it wasn't. And Marie, we're not alone. I asked for some voicemail messages. So why don't we listen to a few of those? I just want you, if you're listening, just listen. These are people, like everyday people, just like me and you. We're not crazy. We are literally normal, everyday people who were indoctrinated into something very traumatic. So here's the first one.
I grew up in a really evangelical culture that used the rapture as control, almost, in a sense. Like, I felt like if I was doing something bad, that God was going to definitely come back, send Jesus to come back in those moments. And not to mention, like, all of the um, media that we had, like, the song You've Been Left Behind and the Left Behind books and all the materials that we had. And I just felt like the rapture was this tool that Christians used and pastors used to fear people into accepting a message that otherwise they may not even think twice about, especially if you think about children. It was so indoctrinated into us through all of our teachings in Sunday school and kids' church. And, if you grew up in it, if your parents were in it, you didn't have a choice. Like, that's just what you thought. That's how you were raised. And, I mean, for crying out loud, VeggieTales even taught us that the rapture was real and it was happening. And there was nothing we could do about it.
Man.
Well,
He's
so
right.
I remember being in Sunday school in the late 70s, early 80s, and them talk. I'm not going to say his name. I remember his name. I'm not going to say his name because that might be embarrassing for this person who I don't know anymore. And he started talking about, did you know that there are credit cards being printed right now with the numbers 666 on them? And I'm like, and it scared the crap out of me. Don't get me wrong. It was like, it scared me. But today I'm thinking, well, duh, eventually, statistically, that's going to happen. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Duh.
Well, and the microchips, anytime a
Oh,
microchip,
yeah.
and now we've got so many of those, like it's,
Oh, yeah.
and that just fits the narrative. I think when we were kids, it was a tattoo, but
Yeah,
then
it
as
was.
technology improved, it was like, oh no, this is going to be a rice-sized microchip. Or at first it was a credit card. They were like, no, it's going to be a credit card and you hold it in your right hand when you pay. Or then it was, so as technology came, like the narrative sort of expanded a little bit. All right, let's hear another one.
As a kid, I watched both Thief in the Night and Friday the 13th. I can tell you which one was scarier. Getting left behind was way scarier than a monster in the water.
Yeah.
Man. All
That
right.
is so
Essential.
true. Yeah.
Because it
But
feels real. At least when you're watching Friday the 13th, you're like, oh, this isn't real. It's just
yeah.
pretend.
Well, they presented it as almost like a documentary.
Yes, exactly. Like, this is going to happen. And
we did this at night at church lock-ins. Remember the lock-in?
yeah, they locked you right on into that church.
You're locked
couldn't
in the
leave.
church and you can't leave and the lights are off and you're watching this scary movie, but it's being presented as the truth.
Well, and then at the end, there was this big altar call. We all
Oh,
had
of
to
course, we all got saved again. I mean,
again. Every time we would do one of these things, we would get saved again because
Right.
just in case it didn't take the time before. And,
right.
To me, it's like, guys, I want you to just like step back and think about how unhealthy that is. That is coercion. That is not somebody receiving something because they genuinely want to. They're just scared to death. And if
Yeah.
fear,
Yeah.
is no part of who God is, there's just really no reason for us to fear God. The thing that I hear a lot in the Bible, they talk about how the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So you have to be afraid of God. No, no, no. What that word actually means is reverence and respect. And you can have respect for somebody without being terrified that they're going to beat you up or
Right.
send you to eternal conscious torment. And, those are all the things that, man, I wish I had known, but I kind of had to work through in my deconstruction,
Right.
right, we got one more one more voice message. Here we go.
Oh my gosh, did I ever have rapture trauma. I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s, and that was taught at my church very, very strongly. I read The Late Great Planet Earth. I watched Thief in the Night movie, and I was terrified. I remember coming home from school, calling my friends. Nobody answered. Calling another lady in my church. Nobody answered. And I figured the rapture had been taken and I had been left behind. It took me quite a few years to let go of that trauma, and I've since learned that that is a relatively new doctrine, so I'm not afraid of it anymore, but I definitely had rapture trauma. I passed it along to my kids. I let them read all the Left Behind books, and we watched the movies, and we all had rapture trauma for a while. Fortunately, that is all gone, and we're doing good. Thanks for your podcast. I love it. I love what you're doing. Have a great day. Oh, in case you want to know, my name is Julie.
Julie.
Hi,
Julie. Thank you, Julie. And you'll hear that a lot. I hear that a lot as a faith transition coach. People are like, I'm free of it now, but whew, that was a rough one.
Our family was always in church twice on Sunday, so morning and night, and then on Wednesdays. And for a while, we would go on Wednesdays. But when we became teenagers and things like that, we were able to skip the Wednesday night service every now and then. But if mom and dad were late coming home on a Wednesday night, or late from work, or I can't get a hold of you, I was in a panic. My anxiety, full swing, sweaty palms, racing heart. I would just stare out the window and wait for them to come home, because I thought, okay, I'm left behind. I'm on my own. And then I would start going through that scenario from that movie, that damn movie.
Yeah.
That damn movie that made all of a sudden I'm getting my head chopped off in my brain because I need food and I don't have a mark on my body to get food.
Yeah. Well, and what the movie teaches too is that if you don't get that mark, not only will they kill you, but if you die and you don't receive the mark, you'll go to heaven.
Right.
So you're like a martyr. But if you get the mark, there's no way you're ever going to get to heaven.
Right. So you can't get the mark.
Separated from God forever, and you'll burn in hell.
Right.
That
is, and that is like not in the Bible.
No, it is not.
But it was so indoctrinated into my brain that it didn't matter if it was true or not. It's where my mind went when I couldn't get my parents on the line.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember when I was a little kid, I was absolutely terrified of Bigfoot. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I was sure Bigfoot was outside of my window and was going to push his arms through and grab me and take me and kill me or whatever. I was so afraid of Bigfoot. But I tell you what, I was cured of my fear of Bigfoot when all of a sudden it was replaced with, people I love are going to disappear and leave me. So being afraid of Bigfoot all of a sudden went away. And all of a sudden now I'm more afraid of something that, could happen to me personally. And it was terrifying.
You just reminded me of something.
Oh no, what?
Oh, it's that story from when I was in second grade. And this little girl, okay, I'm just going to call her what she is, a little bitch. This blonde braids, blue eyes. And she came up to me in second grade. And I'll get to why I'm telling you this in a second. But she came up to me in second grade and she said, "Did your mom have blue eyes and blonde hair?" And I said, yeah. And she goes, "Yeah, I thought so. She's a witch."
Oh my gosh.
And I said, "Well, no, she's not." And she goes, "Yeah, my mom is the leader of all the witches. And we have a meeting at our house on Tuesday nights. And your mom is always there." And I said, "No, she's not. I said she was home on Tuesday night." And she goes, "That wasn't your mom."
Oh,
yeah. For years, I thought mom was a witch. And I would watch her on Tuesday nights to see if it was her. I thought she was like a robot or something, or like somebody taking my mom's place while my mom was at the witches meeting at that bitch's
Oh my
house.
gosh. Marie.
But anyway, Rapture theology took
Trumped
the
it.
place of that. See,
That's how I beat my fear. I got a bigger
I'm
one.
telling you, I swear she is like a Stephen King protege now. That's where
Yeah,
she
that is very creative, I will say.
for
I would love to.
second grade.
Hey, if
Second
you're
grade?
listening and that was you, please
Yeah.
let me know because I want to have you on the show.
You're brilliant, man. I mean, you're a bitch, but you're brilliant.
Brilliant bitch. Anyway, sorry, we digress, but we just have
Sorry.
to like help you understand the amount of trauma and the way it's funny, the way that trauma shows up, the way that you kind of know is you feel it in your body.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
I started to feel anxious, even just preparing for this episode, Marie. When I was doing my research, I was like, I had to like do my breaths. I had to remind myself it wasn't true. But you know, there's always going to be, I think, I don't know. I feel like it's gone, but maybe it's not. That
Yeah.
what if I'm wrong? What if it's
Oh,
really?
yeah.
And that is what keeps so many people from even questioning, because they're like, I don't even want to question because that'll make me a heathen or a heretic or whatever. It's like, but please just do the research. All you have to do is understand when this came about. It was not that long ago, and it was not
Right.
truth. It was an interpretation. And that is one thing. People are like, oh, the Bible is so clear. And I read something the other day. I can't remember who said it. I think it was one of the pastors I've had on my podcast, but he said something like, people are like, oh, the Bible is clear. It's like, no, my interpretation of the Bible is clear to me. Like
Right.
remembering that exact same book says something completely different to someone else.
Right.
Maybe somebody just kind of brought this around. You know, I do think when John Nelson Darby brought this about in the 1800s, they were losing people in the church. Okay. They were losing people in the church and they were like, what can we do? Oh, fear. Fear is a motivator. And I don't think he set out. I think he really thought he was being led by the Spirit, you know, as people do when they're in the Bible. But if an interpretation that you're reading brings up anxiety and fear, to me, that is a red flag. You know, we should not be scared into having a relationship with God. We already have it.
Yes. And even if you are a Holy Spirit filled Christian and you feel that fear, that is your Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Saying, hey, maybe this couldn't be
Keep
true.
thinking.
Maybe this isn't true. Yeah.
Keep thinking, keep looking. Because if you look at especially the New Testament, and you compare the book of Revelation to the rest of the New Testament, it's like, how did that get there? That is completely different.
Yeah.
And like, it's all about interpretation. And if you don't do it right, it becomes terrible.
Yeah, it becomes fear and indoctrination. And when we teach somebody that something is true, even though we're not really sure if that's the right interpretation, you know, it can turn into trauma if it ends up not being. So for me, I think part of my deconstruction, not only letting go of rapture theology and hell and the things that brought me fear, you know, I say it all the time. Maybe this is the only podcast you've heard in my series, but I want you to understand my actual deconstruction started in the Bible, reading 1 John 4. There is no fear in perfect love. Perfect love casts out fear. Fear has to do with punishment. So the one who is experiencing fear is not in love. You know, you're not really walking in true love. And I'm like, so what have I been experiencing then? And the answer is indoctrination. And it is not necessary for me to believe these fear-filled I guess, what do you call doctrines? It's not necessary for me to believe that in order to have a relationship with God. I want to just explain, like, since deconstructing, not only have I let go of these fears, but they've been replaced with faith. Like I now know what faith is. Faith is the opposite of certainty. Faith is the opposite of fear. It is the opposite of all of those things, because now I'm like, I don't know what the future is. Maybe there is you know what? I mean, who am I to say for sure? If it brings me anxiety, I'm pretty sure it's not God. But, you know, I don't know the future, but I know God. And the way that I look at my life now is so much easier because I'm like, whatever it is, it's going to be good. Like he's going to take care of him, or she. God, and at this point, God to me is not like this man in the sky, watching over me, making sure I don't sin. To me, I feel like the only sin that we commit is believing for even 1 second that we are not already connected to God.
Right.
And I think when we start walking in that, it's very easy when you feel disconnected from source, from the thing that makes you alive, that connects you to others, that connects you to this world, that connects you to spirit. Like when you feel disconnected, you will fall for these things because you're desperate. And when desperation never produces anything good, desperation always brings about things that end up being traumatic. So these are all just thoughts to think about. I'm never going to be somebody who's going to say, you can't believe that. You believe whatever the heck you want, as long as, you're not doing harm to yourself or others. And as long as you're rooted in love, and the only reason I'm saying to really question these beliefs is for those reasons, not because I need you to believe like me. You can believe any way you want. But if you want to live your life free of these fears that keep us in bondage, we think we're free. We think we're free. And we're not. I remember thinking, at least I'm free from sin. But then I would still sin. And I'm like, yeah, but God didn't see it because he sees Jesus in me. It's like no personal responsibility whatsoever, right?
Oh, no, you just go home and you pray and you ask for forgiveness. I mean, that's, it's like, okay, done. Next.
No, I'm fine. Yes. And some sects of Christianity believe that when you sin, you lose your salvation in that moment. I mean, I know we have relatives who are kind of in that. And then we also have sects of Christianity who think once saved, always saved, doesn't matter what you do. And then like the sect that we kind of went through phases of those. So I think initially I thought you could lose your salvation. And then I believed, you can't lose it no matter what. And then I changed it to if saved, always saved, which was even more traumatic for me because it's like, how do you know?
Because then there's
you don't even know your own heart. Only God does. So like, I think I meant it. You know what I mean? Like, like all of this anxiety that I experienced. What's frustrating, Marie, have you ever talked to somebody who's still in it? And you're like, just being honest, like I'm filled with fear. This was why I had to leave. And they go, what? You're afraid?
I'm not afraid.
You had some bad teaching. I'm like, do you believe in hell? Do you believe in the rapture? Do you believe that God's love is conditional? No, and then when you say that, like I can hear evangelical Leslie, Sister Christian. She's like, oh, I don't believe God's love is conditional. I think we have to choose to be invited into, to receive that love. Like we put that responsibility on ourselves. And yet once we receive it, we disappear. And it's only about Jesus. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, which fits a narrative of somebody who has been brought up in a system telling you that you are worthless and that you are nothing without God.
You're nothing.
But why would you be here? Why would God give you your gifts? Why would you have this life?
Well, and I think what the key is that you've always had him.
Yeah, you always have. Like it's never been missing.
It's never been missing. You don't have to choose God. You're born. How do you explain a soul?
I know. Yeah.
Right. How do you explain a soul? Because we don't die. Our soul lives on, right?
Right.
That can't happen without God.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you believe that there is a source or the divine, something that connects all of us, because see, now I look at God as like the soil that we're all planted in. Like we can't grow without God. We can't even be alive. I remember hearing my radio co-host when I was in Christian radio. He talked about how his wife wasn't a Christian for a long time. And he said it was exhausting dragging around her dead body. That's what he said. And he thought that was so spiritual, but I just remember being really triggered by that. Like, that sounds horrible. He's like, because her spirit was dead. Christ was not in her yet. So she was just this dead body that I had to drag around. Now she can finally, walk around because she has Jesus. And how does that not lead to just absolute disdain for yourself? To think, you know what I mean? To me, I don't know.
If I'm her,
after a tangent,
Well, no, and if I'm her, I'm like a burden now.
Yeah, exactly.
I was his burden, And now I feel like I owe him something for getting me out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It
anyway,
makes
but you're right. Tangent.
No, we're on a tangent, but we're doing it, I think, just because this is how we talk. This is what we do when we get on the phone.
This is,
And
in
you're just
fact,
getting a snippet.
yeah. So Bob asked me before I came in here, he goes, well, what are you guys talking about? And I said, well, Rapture theology. And he goes, ooh, does she want me on? I love that song. And but remember when that song came out in the thick of all of our indoctrination. We weren't allowed to listen to it because we weren't allowed to listen to secular music. But I remember feeling so naughty, and I still love that song. But when
Rapture
I would
by
listen,
Blondie, by the way.
yeah, Rapture by Blondie, yeah, exactly.
And yeah, man, just so much fear, guys. And I don't believe that this is a true theology. I think if we are to do anything, if you are a Christian, if you're a Jesus follower, love people, love God with your whole heart and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's literally the only demands that Jesus gave to us. He said, if you do those two things, everything else is going to fall into place.
Yeah.
And I believe that because I'm living it now. The fear is gone. I still have a deep love for God and an incredible love for Jesus and respect for what he did and the messages that he left.
The
And,
life he lived. Yep.
Yeah, the life he lived. I want to live my life like that. Am I doing it all the time? 100%? No, not even close. But what a beautiful example, of just knowing. See, he knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was connected to God. So much so, I and the Father are one. He knew, he knew. And he said, and this is so interesting how we just kind of glaze over this. He said, and this was before there was a prayer that you asked Jesus into your heart, because he wasn't even dead yet, right? This is in John somewhere. He talks about how I am in the Father and you are in me and I am in you. He said that. He didn't say, if you say a prayer. He didn't say this. What he's saying is the Christ consciousness, the knowing that you're connected to God, knowing that you have a purpose on this planet, knowing that you are just to love people and just receive love from others. And that is his message. And I don't know why we made it into a prayer and into a checklist of things you have to do to have that relationship with God. So that's kind of where I stand. I don't know. Where are you at?
Oh yeah, we're at the same place. We're, that. I think we're at the same. Here's what I know for sure. I've never been less afraid of death.
Yeah, same. Like
I just have more confidence in my beliefs now than I ever did when I was walking that road, because I was always afraid I wasn't enough and that I didn't pray it right. And I was at a funeral last year, and the pastor at the funeral said something along the lines of, if you ever want to see this person again, make sure you get right with God today. And I'm like, is that a legitimate conversion?
No.
Is that, can I really, if I want to see this person again and I pray a prayer right now, is that really me making some kind of conversion into Christianity? Or is that me just wanting to see this person I love again?
It's coercion. It's fear. And if we have to use fear to get people to believe like us, that should be a red flag for us. We should say
big red flag. Yeah.
I think rather than making funerals into a opportunity to share the gospel and get people saved, what we do is we go in there and we just talk about the beautiful life that person led.
Yeah.
How many people they love.
Yeah.
How their love left a lasting legacy on this world. And celebrate that life rather than, if you want to see her again, it
was so creepy.
Yeah, it is. And I remember thinking when I die, and this, guys, I was so into it. I don't think you understand. Marie, you tell them how into this I was. My faith. I was an evangelist to the nth degree.
Yeah.
I knew.
Okay. Story time. You came to my house. We were going through something. You turned on Christian music all over my house. You brought oil. You cleansed my house so that what we were going through could improve. And the truth is that it was kind of a magical time, and things did get better. And whether that was because you brought oil or because things were going to get better regardless, I don't
Or
know.
just having that
Yeah.
support system
Or
there, there's
exactly.
so
And
many things it could have been.
a lot of cool things happened at that time. And but it's like, yeah, that wasn't the you that I was used to.
Yeah. No, I very much, it was my identity.
Mhm.
And I'm realizing this is interesting. I've had a pretty traumatic experience as a child where, I, let's just say the thing that happened to me made me believe that I wasn't enough in my own skin, that I
Mhm.
needed, you know, I needed more in order to be acceptable. And I have walked my entire life believing that lie, that I am not enough just as I am. And, Christianity and the beliefs that I was taught just lined right up with that narrative. Um,
Mhm.
Learning to love myself and know that that's okay, because I was told as a Christian, it's
Oh
not
yeah,
okay.
no,
That's
not at all.
idolatry if you love
Yeah.
yourself. Um, Learning to love myself has made me realize I am worthy of so much more than the kind of conditional love that I have been shown by so many people. And, I'm realizing in leaving my faith tradition that I have scared people and they don't want anything to do with me anymore. And I realized that I thought they loved me for who I was, but they really just loved me for what I believed. And
Yeah.
I'm okay with that because I understand what it's like to be in that. There's too much fear. You
Yes.
can't even imagine
Mhm.
being friends with somebody who doesn't believe like you because you're afraid they're going to pull you off the table. You know,
Right.
they're all convinced that they're on the table and we're in the pit and we're trying to pull them off their high horse, which is really sad and pathetic if you think about it. Um, they would say it's a lot easier for you to be pulled down than to pull somebody up. So stay away from the sinners. That's what they would
Right.
say.
Right.
And now I'm like, nope, I'm in the pit and I'm with everyone else. I don't even want to be on the table anymore because you can't relate with anybody. You think you're so much better and that you have all the answers and that they're deceived or misled. And, these are all things that were just very solidified because of this rapture theology.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I hope that this episode has been helpful to you in some way, maybe to even just see an insight into the way I see the world now, whether you believe that way or not. And also wanted to introduce you to my sister because she's amazing. We have great conversations on the phone. And I think that's why we started Midlife Madness back in the day, because we were like, this is not fair. Like, we have the best conversations. We should be doing this on a podcast. And so we did.
It was fun, and then it became a lot of work. And so yeah, it was and it was during COVID, and yeah, then it was crazy.
Yeah, it
So
was. But we still actually pay to keep it up because we're like,
yeah.
maybe one day we'll go back
Yeah.
to it. But yeah, and when we did that podcast, that was 5 years ago. Little.
We started in 2020, I think. Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
was 5 years
So
ago.
5 years ago, we started that podcast. And even then I was still a little more evangelical than I am now.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
when I
absolutely. You can hear it in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
And yeah, so if you listen, you're gonna be like, huh, she's changed. But you know what? It's okay
Yeah,
to change. You don't have to say, this is who I am and it's who I'm always going to be.
that's
You can
right.
say, this is who I am in this moment. But if I am brought some information that shows me that I could be wrong, you have to have the humility to go, you know what? I think I was wrong there. And that's okay. My life didn't end. I have this post that's on my TikTok where I was like, this is for my LGBTQIA family. I'm so sorry, and I talk about how I kind of went through that, realizing that I was wrong, that I shouldn't have treated them the way that I did. And I was so sorry. And I wanted to give them hope that people can change. And I'm not even kidding. The grace and love that community is showing me it's moving. It touches my heart because these are the people I was judging for so long and with such confidence that I was right. And they could say, you know what, we're not going to forgive you because you ruined this or that. But they're not doing that. They're saying thank you for changing your mind. Yeah. How do you feel since you've changed your mind, Marie?
Like I said, I've never been less afraid to die. And I say that because I had such fear that I didn't pray the prayer right or, whatever. To me, it's just the next step now in my consciousness or whatever, it sounds silly, but it sounded more silly a long time ago. Now it feels real, and I just have to love people, and that's all that's asked of
literally,
me. Yeah.
that's it. It's not about policies and
Mhm.
religions and
Right.
politics.
And yes, rules.
It's about loving people right where you are in your moment, in your community, right? Grow where you're planted. It's a lot more simple than we were led to believe, which
Right.
is really freeing.
It is. It is.
Well, thank you for hanging out with me today, Marie. I appreciate it. I know we didn't just talk about rapture. I think we talked about, just the way we see God now, which I think was so good. But if you have any questions or if you have anything to add, I do have a voicemail. You can leave a voicemail right there. It's in the show notes. You can find it, wherever you're listening to your podcasts, or you can send me an email, honoringthejourneypodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. But Marie, you're the best. Thank you.
Oh, well, no, you're the best. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of you. They're doing great work here.
Well, you're maybe the lone person in our extended family.
Okay.
Somebody else is like praying for me, but
No.
I appreciate that. But you know what? The truth is, the way that they feel about where I'm at now says more about where they're at than me.
Exactly.
So there's nothing but love for them. And, what can I do? Anyway, love you guys. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you next week right here on Honoring the Journey.